Where's this come from, this tyranny and this future slavery?
Well, I think power is always going to corrupt. No matter how good the person, I can give you a million examples, right? So I've known nice guys, and they're genuinely a nice guy. And they get a girlfriend who's completely in love with them, and the girl will do anything for them. No matter how nice that man is, they end up just being a bit of a dickhead to her, because she'll just take it. It's just what happens. Power corrupts people. Like, we're not perfect creatures. And I think when you start getting mass amounts of influence and power, it's very normal and natural to get to a point where you just want to be completely and utterly obeyed. And also there's a huge ego trip. And when I say ego, people think, oh, that's a bit of a juvenile way to boil down the world. But I don't think it is. I think that if you're born into a billionaire family and your family's been important since the dawn of human time, that you get a massive ego trip from people complying, and people not complying is a big deal to you, right? You're king. Look at the olden days. If you looked at the king wrong, he'd chop your head off, right? So if you sit and if you come along and give some ridiculous rule, let me make up a fake scenario. Let me make up something totally ridiculous. Let's imagine that everyone was suddenly afraid of the common cold. And let's imagine we told people to wear a mask when they walk in a restaurant, sit down, take it off, eat, put it back on to stand up and go toilet, come back, take it off to eat, to save lives. Let's just do some hypothetical, right? Everybody knows there's no medical backing for that. Everybody knows that's absolutely ridiculous. So why would you do that? Well, you do that to force people to comply so you can sit around and go, that's it. What else is going to make somebody at that level happy besides an ego trip? You think money's going to make them happy? You think you can buy a Ferrari and smile? These people print money. They're above money, right? And they believe, well, I won't say quite rightly, but I understand why they believe it, that they're better than everybody else. They believe that they're literally a different species than everybody else. We're peasants, we're ants. We're nothing to these people. So if they tell you to do something, you better do it. So if you stand up and say, that's dumb, then they go, whoa, 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 who's the big mouth? Oh, this ant's smart. And they'll find a way to check you. And if you're an ant that stands up, and then a whole bunch of other ants stand up with you, well, that's where the problems come, right? That's why they got Socrates. You know why Socrates died?
I'd love to hear.
He was arrested, and he ended up poisoning himself and killing himself because they were going to execute him. And he was arrested for corrupting the youth because he was convincing the youth to think about not joining the military because the wars were pointless. So corrupting the youth is why Socrates died. If you make the youth think, you're an enemy to the establishment. It's always been the same.
Do you not go to bed at night sometimes and shit yourself?
Yes. Yes. But at this point, I've now made a decision to stand true to my morals and stand true to God and genuinely be a force of good for the world and genuinely try to make people do good things to other people. And if I'm not going to stop doing that. So if I'm going to die, I'm going to die. It's like being in a plane crash. What can you do? The plane's going down. What are you going to do about it? You can scream and be a girl about it, but the plane's still going to crash. So it's kind of not defeatist. It's kind of like you come to terms with the scenario. Am I going to sell my soul and live longer and have less of an impact on the world and know that I'm aiding the devil in its intentions? Or am I going to live a shorter amount of time and do my absolute best to be a positive force for the world and be remembered as such? And I think that God will reward me for that. So it's just, you come to terms with the reality that there are enemies too powerful to fight and there's nothing you can do.
So you said that a lot of influence and power can create ego.
I didn't say can create ego. I said these people are absolutely and utterly deeply egotistical to a level that an average person can't possibly understand.
Wow. Okay. So has your power created that in you?
Completely.
But when I met you, you were really nice and humble, and we were chatting.
And so would they be, right? But if I had an employee and I said, do this, and they said, I ain't doing that, I'm like, well, then you're fucking fired. Oh, but I have to pay a mortgage. Don't care. Bye. I can turn ruthless just like anybody else, right?
Well, a lot of people can't, can they?
Well, but you don't become powerful if you can't be ruthless.
Yeah.
This is the unfortunate reality, is the people who become most powerful in the world are the people who have the capability to be ruthless. This is what it is. Power is only attractive to people who want to yield it. Why would you want power if you're not going to wield it? Why would you want a sword if you never take it out, right? If you give a guy a gun, he's going to, even if he doesn't want to shoot anyone, he'll wave it around a bit. He ain't just going to put it in the drawer and close it and never touch it again, right? So the people in life who never try to become powerful, maybe they're the ones who can sit and say, I wouldn't do that. Well, but you're never going to be powerful, so who cares? The people who aim for power and crave power, They crave it to use it, right? And I'm not saying that I'm any better than these people who are in charge of the world. I'm sitting saying this is human nature to a degree. I try my very best to live true to God, and I know that I try and do good things. But the people who are in charge of the world perhaps believe that their ideas are good. They're opposite to mine, right? So they may have the idea that we should teach children about sex at 3 years old. I believe we should leave the children alone. They believe their idea is good. I believe my idea is good. And if I was in charge of the world and somebody tried to do the opposite idea, teach children about sex at 3 years old, I'd be the one saying absolutely no, shut them up. I'd do the same thing. Do you understand? So I'm no better than these people. We're all human. I just truly believe that my views are better than theirs. But they believe the same the opposite way around. And that's what's so difficult about it. That's what's so sad about the world. If you look at any war, it's never good guy versus bad guy. Everyone has their opinions, right? But it's always a gray mess of some guy's got a good point, the other guy's kind of got a good point, everyone's half good, half bad, and that's the unfortunate reality of Earth. So, yeah, it's a strange one, but I absolutely, completely will sit here and say, yes, if I had absolute power, then I would wield it completely, just like they are. I get it. I get it. And that's why I know they want me gone. Because I know I know what happens when you're a powerful person and someone keeps poking you. I know what happens. And I know that not only from this world, I know it from the underworld. I've had a very long and interesting life. In a previous incarnation, I was involved in some shady things. And
are you talking about another life before your own life?
Let's put it that way.
Okay. So not in the 35 years you've been here, another life.
For legal reasons, let's say another life.
Okay.
And I've been in rooms with people who sit around and say, this guy's a problem.
As in they're talking about you?
Or no, I've been in the room and we're talking about somebody else.
Right.
This guy's a problem.
In another life?
In another life.
Yeah.
And the problem gets fixed. This is natural.
As in the person goes away?
One way or another.
So are you talking like, is this like what might have happened to Diana, this kind of thing? Is this what you're saying?
I'm talking about, okay, let's take a hypothetical again. Let's say you have 5 drug dealers in a room and a drug dealer keeps robbing them. What are they going to do? They're going to get robbed forever? I'm going to say, no, this is a problem. How do we fix this problem? Well, we've tried to talk to him. He won't talk. He's unreasonable. Okay, then get rid of him. That's business. That's life, right?
Well, it's not business. Is
Well, it's that business.
Yeah.
But, and I'm saying that even from the bottom levels of the socioeconomic scale all the way to the top levels of the socioeconomic scale, there becomes a point where the only solution to the problem is violence. Most people don't understand that the entire world we live in is absolutely and utterly violent. I see violence everywhere. If I see a big tree, I don't think, oh wow, that's a big beautiful tree. I sit and go, that tree destroyed every tree anywhere near it. Its root system is 2 miles long. It's been kicking trees' asses for 100 years. That is a badass tree, right? It's a violent tree. And every single thing about civilized society is underpinned on violence. The idea that violence will eventually appear is the only reason any of this works. If I drive through Dubai too fast, the camera will go off and I'll get a speeding ticket. If I ignore the speeding ticket, they'll add money to the speeding ticket. If I don't pay that, they'll send a bailiff. If I tell him to get fucked, they'll send the police. If I tell them to get fucked, they'll arrest me. If I refuse, violence. It doesn't matter what law, what tax code, anything you can think of. If you disobey long enough, it comes back to the bottom line. The bottom line is always violence. So if you talk to somebody and they don't listen, if you try and reason with somebody, they won't listen. You try and bribe someone, they won't take it. It gets to a point where there's one answer left. Well, then teach them a lesson. And most people don't understand this about the world. And I was having a conversation with a woman once. She said she was a pacifist. And I had to correct her. And I said, you're absolutely and utterly not a pacifist. You may be incapable of violence because you're a female, but you believe in violence because if I were to attack you, you'd call the police. And you want violence by proxy to protect you. You believe in violence because you believe in law and order. You can't be a pacifist amongst savagery, right? You like the idea of living in society. You like the idea of your house being yours. Well, why is it yours? It's yours because it's enforced by a legal contract that the government will enforce with a police force, with violence. The whole world's violent. Everything's violent. So I don't think most people understand and realize that you're saying it's not business when I say that drug dealers are violent. I completely and utterly disagree. It is business. If a company sues another company and they owe a bunch of money and they don't pay it, we can go down the same route. Guess what happens in the end? They end up taking the CEO's house. He doesn't want to give it up. They sent a police officers around and said, you were due to get evicted today. I ain't leaving. Guess what? Violence. Business is violence. Life is violence. It's all violence. We put a nice little happy sugar coat on top of it. But that's the truth of the world.